The best thing you can do for enhancing your output of whatever you're working on is to take that break and to take it in an intentional way where you turn the brain off, you turn the noise of the thoughts down by doing a physical practice like yoga or maybe a more intense workout, having a conversation with someone you love so you're not thinking about work and maybe how to help them, serving, being of service so you're taking your ego out of it and you're just being in a state of compassion and gratitude. And then after that, you can get back into the saddle and repeat the cycle of struggle, release, flow, recovery. But our issue is we either get locked into the struggle, right? Because we just got to keep pushing, or we get into the flow and then we don't know how to stop. And both lead to burnout.
It's about you and me. Let's come together, positivity. Health is wealth, gotta take care of myself. Cause ain't nobody gonna make the change.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our New Year's episode. We have a lovely guest, my fiance, Rua, who is a transformational life coach, is going to take us through a lot of different methods to help us essentially tap into our authentic selves and really get clear on what we want so that we can envision it in a way where we can actually achieve it. So, Rua, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're hoping to evoke in us today?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Miss Tilly. My name is Rua. I'm really grateful to be a guest on this podcast and to have been invited to have and share this experience with you all. My background when it comes to this work and what I'm doing currently, I spent about 10 to 12 years working as an actor out in Hollywood, England, and New York. I had a moment of awakening towards the middle of that career that shifted my perspective on what it meant to be a storyteller and a creator, and how I could use a lot of the same practices and principles that I was learning as an actor, as a storyteller, to work with people to help them embody the character, the version of themselves that they truly wanted to be in the story of the life, in their life story that they wanted to live. And so I do that through all the different methods that I've used to help clear and soften the distractions of day-to-day life and kind of clear that path so I could see it and begin to walk one step in front of the other.
It's beautiful. It's excellent. So, do you want to just get us started and we'll jump right in and you can kind of take us through our little New Year's exercise?
Yes, absolutely. So I wrote a book right here. The light's a little glaring on it right now, but I wrote a book called Stay Lit, A Storyteller's Pocket Guide to Radical Self-Authorship. And I just want to read a little bit from the book what self-authorship is. Are either of you familiar with that term?
I am now because of you, but before I wasn't.
All
Do
right.
tell.
Yeah,
Do tell.
sure. Yeah. So this was a term that I learned when I was getting certified in peak performance coaching through the Flow Genome Project. And it's a concept that was created by Robert Keegan, who's a retired Harvard professor and American psychologist. And it's defined as an ideology, an internal personal identity that can coordinate, integrate, act upon, or invent values, beliefs, convictions, generalizations, ideals, abstractions, interpersonal loyalties, and interpersonal states. This internal operating system begins to author those who create one for themselves and thereby achieve personal authority, aka self-authorship. What that means for the rest of us that may not understand a word of what I just said is developing a degree of self and situational awareness so that you're clear on who you are in any situation you find yourself in, to the point where you can begin to create the situations, you can begin to create the stories, you can begin to create the life that you want to live.
It's really amazing, Will, what you're saying. So you're telling me that if you know who you are, doesn't matter what setting you're in, may it be at work, may it be at a family gathering, and there's a conflict going on, that you could be so self-aware and intentional about your actions and your perceptions that you could even change the narrative of what's happening.
Yeah, 100%. In the moment and even in the past sometimes, which is necessary to stand in that knowing of self in the moment. Because like we were talking about before the podcast, there are a lot of different aspects of life, traumas, shame, guilt, outdated narratives, limiting beliefs, negative self-talk that can keep us in the past, right? And so this framework that is all inspired by storytelling, and because I was a film and TV actor, I'll use the analogy of a movie, right? A movie has a general narrative, a general story, in which the character, who is you as the individual, will be a piece of. And so the first question I ask people when I do this exercise is, what's the story you want to tell? This is the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, all those different components that help you get very clear from a macro perspective on what is the story? What is the life that I want to be in? If my life were a movie, what would that movie be like? Would it be a comedy, a drama, a horror? What would it be? Right? So taking the initiative to take responsibility, full responsibility for creating that narrative, that story is step number one. And so as we're just almost 2 weeks now into this new year, New Year's resolutions are huge. I think we're about 4 days away from New Year's resolutions being dropped. I saw somewhere that people make these resolutions and like the second Friday in, they stop them because they may not have enough fuel in the fire to keep going. A lot of those past narratives may keep holding them back and pushing them down. So I would invite you to explore this question, explore this prompt of what is the story that you wish to create. It can be just for this for this year. We don't have to get into life. That's a big ask. But for this year, what's the story that you want to experience and create for yourself?
It's such a great question because I can be a pragmatic, even though I have a mind that is constantly whimsical and floating around. When it comes to life, I'm very pragmatic. What's realistic? How do you go about it? Like, I would say my story would be a coming of age. But what Ru has really taught me is that the world is infinite. We can truly imagine whatever we desire. And the simple act of truly admitting what we actually want opens up our entire world. And so now I would say, I want my story to be a fantasy. Like, I want my story to be a fantasy, and I want there to be more vibrant colors. I want there to be more flying, fantastical creatures. I want magic powers. Like, that is what I want. And the settings are changing, and maybe I'm able to fly, maybe I'm able to teleport. So, but that is telling me so much about myself and what I actually want and how I want to move in the world. So, for our listeners, I want to hear from Dr. George, but as you sit and contemplate this, like, be honest. What do you want? There are no actual limitations other than the ones you have given yourself.
All right, that is wonderful. So let me tell you about me. What I want this year is a closer relationship with God. That's my motto. I want to be able to understand the Bible more. I want to be able to ministry to others through my health and wellness education. I love caring for my patients. I want to be able to help vulnerable populations more. I want people to understand that when you have a disease, is not the end all, the be all, that there's a lot of things they can do to be healthy and love their bodies. What I want is for me to continue that everything I do to be purposeful. We see all these things happening in the world. It's so devastating. My girlfriend I just spoke to my girlfriend last week. She lived in Pasadena and she lost her entire home in California. She told me, she said she had original paintings and everything and she lost it all. I have had patients who came and told me that they have family members who also lost everything. And then I've heard and I've seen on the news that there were celebrities that also lost everything. And what that teaches me is that, and it's a quote from the Bible. My mama would say, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose their soul? What does material things have? If all is done, devastation, there's flooding, there's fire, there's everything. What is left is us. What would be your legacy? When we no longer on this earth, what is the legacy you want people to remember you by? And this is the year that I am focusing on legacy living, right? I want to learn, I want to identify. I'm not perfect. Sometimes we can all be a hot mess, right? But we have to be able to take constructive criticism. We got to learn about our weaknesses. We got to understand how to be better. how to be more selfless. How do you make decisions that is for others instead of just for yourself? Without people taking advantage, of course.
Mm.
Right. But I do believe that this year is a big year for me. I'm hitting a milestone, so you look back at life and you look at what is my legacy, what you look back and see what it is that I've learned in the past, what can I pay forward, and who can I help forward from behind. You're going to turn around and take someone under your mentorship, help and support somebody to achieve their dreams, and help to support the community of providers, the community of patients, the community of us all wanting the same thing. And that is living healthy, having mental wellness, having physical wellness, and spiritual wellness. And that's mine.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a couple of things that tied in with both of what you said that I think are also really essential to point out. One was Tilly mentioning how normally she operates from a very, maybe more so pragmatic standpoint when it comes to designing her life and planning out future goals and experiences. And that can sometimes, it's good, it's really good. And because we all need structure, but it can sometimes prevent us from really asking ourselves and being able to answer the question of, well, what story do I want to create? Maybe the story that I think I want isn't rational. It's not pragmatic enough. It won't make me money. It doesn't make sense. I have all these responsibilities and obligations. What I would invite in those instances is for anyone listening to just think about the stories, think about the books, poetry, the movies that you're inspired by, and maybe allow those to be like a reference for the type of story that you want to create in your life, which ties into something that you shared, Dr. George, about you were sharing a quote from the Bible, right? The Bible is this beautiful book that gives people a framework for how to live, right? So you attributed a lot of what you are feeling inspired to do and be and embody in this year to a story that's had a huge impact on your life. It's a little girl. And so you just see like how story is it's everything. It's how we make meaning as humans. And the clearer we get on our story and the stories that have influenced us, the easier it becomes to like clear out the noise and really start to put the pen to the pad and create the story that we want to tell. And I just want to bring some light to that.
It's a great segue. So I guess to be organized then, like what would you say Dr. George's story is then? Because I was kind of picking up on documentary, or I was also thinking of like, because she feels like a documentary sometimes, just like that tuned in to the realness of different people. But then also it's such a triumphant story led by spirit, led by God. So that's kind of my takeaway. But Dr. George, it's your story. So what is the genre of your story, to sum up real quick? That's the thing, is it's so easy to say, oh, I want this, I want that.
Yeah. I would tell you.
Exercise.
I would tell you passion, purpose, spiritual power. That's my story. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And it makes sense to you, which is all that matters.
Yes. And I say passion because you do things that you're passionate about, that you feel that is right from your core, your inner being. Purpose, I've always talked about purposeful living, right? You don't just do things without meaning, right? I do believe that every action we do should be intentional and it should be in alignment with who we are and our beliefs. Mm-hmm. Right? Power, spiritual power, meaning that I can pray, I can connect with patients spiritually if needed to, because sometimes through chronic disease and real severe illness, we have to draw from a patient's spiritual beliefs in order for them to find comfort and restore their spirit, because sometimes the illness could really beat down on them. So you as a provider have to be able to be flexible enough that you can pivot and you can meet your patients where they are. So, and for me, it's transformational. Every day I learn from my patients. I always say, if I don't learn anything, Any day that I don't learn anything, I must be dead. Right? So every day I welcome learning new things. I try my best to be open minded and understand different belief system and different perspective and different guidance. And sometimes someone might not be as spiritual, but they're not religious, but they are spiritual. Mm-hmm. And even though sometimes they may not worship the same way you worship, but you find some interconnected threads that are the same. They might just have a different viewpoint, but essentially it actually is the same. So I do believe that having this ability to talk to someone like you, Rua, for you to really show us how we can really bring more meaning to our resolutions by being intentional and painting our own story, painting our own story with many colors. Like for me, when I travel in a new country, there are key things I like to do. I like to go to the museum so I can learn the story about that country, where the indigenous people, where they come from, and how that country has evolved over the years in terms of their current population and what the population was like back then. The other second place I like to be is at a cultural show where they blend the sound, the music, the dance, and the food. And every time I go somewhere, I want to find those things because it helps me to experience the culture, understand their story, and believe it or not, take a little piece of their story and take it back with me and make it my own. Mm-hmm. That's what I do when I visit countries. So it really speaks. I didn't know why I did it, but now you remember you said that you can take a story that you read, a movie that you see, and you can take piece of it and make it your own.
Yeah, and you can do.
So I've been doing that, Rue, and I didn't realize it.
I was just going to say, you're doing it. You can do it in life. And what I think is really cool about hearing you describe your story is, to me, if I were watching it or reading it, I see it in the genre of like epic adventure.
Mm. Yeah.
But not necessarily what you see in the movies where it's like, oh, the hero or the heroine is like leaving and going to all these different places and conquering all these foes and overcoming all these trials and tribulations. That's part of it. That's part of it. And I imagine it's a large part of what got you to the position where you are. And it's the beauty of you showing up in your community as a servant leader. It's like you've been on this epic adventure journey. You continue to go on these journeys and continue to glean different aspects of cultures that light you up. And then you bring it to the people that you desire to serve. And that is so important and so admirable. And it leads me into the next section, which is identifying your character, identifying the role you wish to play in this story, which you kind of just described, but we can go even deeper as to the texture. What is the embodied psychosomatic experience of you that you want to bring into 2025? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? What are things that you want to do more of? How do you want to invest your time? Who is the version of you that creates that legacy that you're so passionate about?
I am very passionate about helping others in more of a servant ministry. I've always want to go on trips. Sometimes you give back, where you might go to countries and you might serve them as a medical team, or you might serve them in the capacity of providing education. But for this year, realistically, I want to be able to do more for vulnerable populations such as the homeless and the veterans. Being so up and close with veterans, our practice, 75% of our patients are either veterans or Army reservists. And you see what they have been through during deployment, the emotions and the changes that occur mentally and physically. I feel that there are huge gaps in the support that they receive. And I really feel strongly that we at YWS, even though we do a great job, we hear it all the time from our patients, but We want to do more because we have seen some of our patients where they came in broken and now they are whole by the support they receive, whether it was behavioral health counseling, psychiatric medication management, nutrition counseling, learning how to eat and be healthy and enjoy food and different menus and different dishes, and physical health, how it is to manage your blood pressure, what type of blood pressure machine to get, what is the right numbers that you should look, your systolic, your top number, your diastolic, your bottom number. How should you exercise to maintain a lean body versus bulk up with muscle? Understanding how to manage their diabetes, understanding good skincare, right? How to manage your skin. A lot of our patients who are in the military, they end up developing a condition where they have razor bumps. And
Mm.
because of the frequency of them shaving their beard as a criteria for their service, they develop these huge razor bumps that is like abscesses. The medical term is pseudofolliculitis barbae. And they are miserable because sometimes the blister may bleed and ooze on their shirt collar and different things. I'm like, when I see them and I treat them and I complete forms for permanent profile for them, and showing that yes, we had to treat it. When we treat it, it got better. Once they shave again, it come right back. And you see them say, "Oh my God, thank you so much. I got my permanent profile. I don't have to go through this anymore." These are the little things that you see that you can change. The little things where you can educate them about, the injuries that they have, making sure they get the support and the treatment they need timely because it can cause further disability. And then you have our other patients that dealing with, challenges whether it's be financial, where they're competing priorities, they're on a fixed income, but they have multiple doctor's appointments, or they have to decide, should I pay this copay or should I buy bread and milk for my grandchildren today? So we have a gamut of things that we have to be aware of. So for me this year, I want to be more in tune with the needs of my patients. I would like to connect more with nonprofit organizations. If there are nonprofit organizations out there that you believe that you have a service that can fill the need for our patients, please DM us. Please send us a message and let us know. There's much more. I would like to be an instrument to facilitate that support for this year.
Thank you. So you're going to need a lot of energy.
It's important, I'm very passionate about my veterans. They have served our country and served our country well, and they deserve the VIP treatment. Honestly, they don't get it, but they deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to flip it back to you before I hear what you share, T. How do you show all that passion back to yourself, Dr. George? How do you give all of that specific care and like dialed in understanding of what all of your patients need? How do you then give that to yourself? What are the tools you use?
I'll be honest, Rua, that's also one of my resolutions for this year, is to be able to improve my self-care practices. Because I'll be honest, I'm a giver. I give, 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 give. And when I look back, I don't reserve enough time for myself. And this year, that's one of the things I want to do. And I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to give me the time to recoil, and what does that look like?
You read my mind. Yeah.
Right? Couple things a lot of my patients may not know. I love to dance, right? Maybe Zumba, Caribbean music, African music. I love to dance. And I remember being at my most centered place in life was when I was dancing at least twice a week. Whether I take a class and I, dance twice a week. I loved it, the adrenaline. I feel like that woosah when I come out of it, So I know I need to pick that back up. The second thing that I love. I love to sing. I love singing in the choir, and it gives me community and spiritual embracement, and to be able to be in a community that are so skilled and learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one step into that because I belong to Miracle City Church, and we had an awesome choir led by Dr. Eric Conway of the Morgan State Choir. And we had our 25th anniversary in 2019, where it was our last Christmas cantata. We've been so heartbroken because we missed our choir. And God, in his marvelous ways, allowed one of our members of our church to take up the lead and resurrect the choir. So last Saturday, they got the band back. So we are rehearsing for a wonderful Easter cantata, and Dr. Eric Conway is back leading the team, and I am so excited. I suffered a lot of hoarseness with my voice during the pandemic. Now I'm in speech therapy, working on that and all of that. But I prayed for it, and I'm going to be able to start singing back again.
Woo!
So those are wonderful insights that have happened.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
That's so good. And I'm glad you shared that because I know your passion for your patients. I know your passion for the clinic, but I think it's so rewarding to know your passions for life and your passions for yourself. And that's a huge connecting point, and that's very empowering because it's like, you are so much more complex than just the work you do. And those things that define you, that bring you light and joy in other ways beyond just what you give, are what allow you to give so much more. So I think it's so important to hear that and to identify those sources of rejuvenation, because it is what makes someone like you such a good provider.
Thank you so much. And I'm always looking for other things that interest me.
Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity is the key. It's the key.
So, Miss Tilly, what do you do to get back to yourself?
Good question. I think that I like a lot of alone time. That has always been a number one. I'm more introverted by nature, and having a job where I'm constantly talking all day long to other people, it's important for me to just find that space to be alone, or be with my partner, and just kind of connect and be able to share. So that alone time is really, really crucial, and just connecting with self. But I think the biggest thing that Rua has helped me tap into is more of my creative expression, which is funny because I grew up such a creative kid. My mother is an artist, and my childhood was being naked out in our garden body painting. Like all day long we were just like playing. I had turkeys, they would follow us around. Like each night I would put on dance performances when my dad would get home from work, and like put on costumes. So it was constant play and expression. And then what happened as a woman in STEM, and I'm sure you can relate to this, there's a need to prove yourself. There's a need to be super intelligent and work super hard and be diligent towards your career. And I'm very fresh in my career. So I'm redefining myself as a woman who has kind of made it, like not saying I've made it to where I eventually want to be, but in the sense that I have a job now. I'm out of school. Like there's no longer that like climbing, taking tests, making sure that I'm good enough. I finally have a stable position where I can give back. And that has been the goal for so long, because I felt very selfish in school. Like, oh, yes, I'm getting this knowledge, but it's all about me. It's all about me and my education. All I want to do is now be able to help people. And so now that I'm in the position of being able to help people and no longer being defined by being a student for so long, I'm sitting in the place of, okay, how do I tap back into my inner child? How do I tap back into what's made me me? And Rua has been so helpful in that. And like, I'm not necessarily the most confident at being a performer. He is, that was his job. But for me, I think being, again, a woman in STEM, I was like, professionalism. I need to be taken seriously in this field. And being a young woman, you're not always taken seriously. So I really pushed down those parts of myself that were a little bit more just, I don't know, expressive in a more free and more confident way, not caring what people thought and if that would take away from my intelligence. So now I'm tapping back into maybe I want to put on a costume and dance, and Rue and I've set an intention of dancing to one song like each day, whether it's in the morning, which he's kind of been more into lately, or at night, like let's just dance before we go to bed. So it's just like that freeing thing. And as you talked about, dancing is so important. I'm not a singer. I'm not a singer. I don't like my voice, but I'm trying to also tap into I don't have to be good at those things. I can just express myself. I can just be moving through art constantly. And that's my intention, I would say, for my character this year is one who is constantly being in creative spaces. And as much as I want to constantly be giving to others and connecting, I also want to be inspiring. I don't want to just sit in the place where it's always caregiver. I want to sit in the place where let's come together, like let's grab our instruments, let's play our music, and let's just flow through this enjoyment of creativity because I think that heals often so much more than sometimes just sitting and digging and processing through the old narratives.
That is so important. Sometimes I reflect back on growing up in the Caribbean, and the way of life is so laid back.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to compare it almost, the life we live is always in a rush, always so much to do. But you would see things like, I remember this. I was visiting in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a work day in the week. My cousin called me and says, "Hey, Marcia, I'm trying to talk the dialect, guys, okay? We going to Maracas Bay. Come join us. I'll pick you up around 11 o'clock. Now, if you know, Trinidad time is not 11 o'clock. You say 11 o'clock, look out for them by 1. Right? So this is what they're saying. And I'm like, well, you supposed to be at work. Nah, the sun real hot, man. And I just wanna go in the beach and bust a line. So I'm gonna come pick you up. My buddies or my partner. No, it's different. We would say, we hear terms like my homies, my buddies. There they might say my partner.
Mm.
They use the term partner. My partner come in, this one come in, and we gonna cook a pot of pilau on the beach. And we're going to have some Carib and some Guinness and some Heineken and stuff. And I know your ladies like your Shandy Sorrel and stuff, So, and we're going to have a real line. I got my speakers, so we bust a little soca on the beach. And we good. So it's just impromptu. So now you start off, you say, my 2 partners coming, right? You call me, so I count in 4, right? So the same 2 partners, each partner invite 3 or 4 other people. And next thing you know, you're on the beach and you have a group of 40 people and it's a party, and you will swear that it was all planned. That is the thing that sometimes I miss. I miss that impromptu stuff, where you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I'm going to do something. And you just call people up and you just do stuff and you just have a ball. But that is something that I wish that I can do more of, that impromptu stuff. It's exciting because you never know what the day is going to bring. Yeah. What do you think about that, Rue? What do you think about?
Do you see my smile? I'm not from Trinidad, but I feel like I'm remembering those memories from another lifetime. You're speaking to the way that I wish to live, the way that I feel I've been. Well, I mean, honestly, I have, speaking to these exercises and these questions, this is the life I have created for myself. Where last Thursday, it was a Wednesday, I'm in this men's group called Journeyman. And
which is great. You should tell her about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the main guy from the group just messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a night hike tomorrow? We'll bring some instruments, some flutes, we'll just, we'll walk and we'll see what happens." And I was like, yeah, right? Wow. And so that wasn't planned. No one knew about it. We've never done that as a group before. The next day we had 10 guys show up for this impromptu night hike in the snow. And it was so fun and so unexpected, so improvised, but so needed. Because how often at this age that we're all in different parts of our lives, but it's almost like unless you're in the creative space or in it, let's just speak about this country, right? Unless like if you're in the professional world, for the most part, you're gonna have a certain like schedule that you hold to, and you don't really sway from that schedule because
Mhm.
your life kind of depends on it, or at least that's what you tell yourself. Outside of the artistic communities where it can be more flowy, and that was my experience as an actor. So coming to DC, coming home to DC, which is very like structured and pragmatic and like all the things we've been talking about, and to have someone invite me to an impromptu night hike, I was just like, this is what I need. And I'm really grateful that this is what I'm receiving.
Yeah.
It's one thing for me to be like, oh, I want to do this, and then hit up a bunch of people and they come. It's another thing for someone else, like your cousin, to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Come on.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's so necessary, and it speaks to just how different cultures appreciate the nuance and the nectar and the flavor of life differently.
And then that is so true. So I feel like for this new year, we need to be more impromptu. We need to get rid of some of the schedules and, planning. Sometimes you just play it open. I think that will be, especially for individuals who are professionals and live by tight schedules. Everything is marked down on the hour. I think it would be very therapeutic to throw the schedules out whenever you can, especially when you have your day off. Don't put yourself on a schedule.
Yeah,
Don't even put the alarm on to wake you up.
yeah,
Just wake up naturally and do what you want to do. It's your day off, whatever you feel like doing. Don't let nobody tell you that you're on your day off. I want you to do this with me. You should be, I'm going to do this for myself. You're
Mm.
not on anybody's schedule. I think that is the message I get from this room, that we need to get loose sometimes and just put the schedule down.
Oh, yes. And it's funny because that speaks a lot to my methodology with patients. And I think that can be tricky sometimes because I deal with so many patients who want to lose weight, and they're ready for the exact meal plan. Tell me how much to eat at each meal. Tell me the exact ingredients. Tell me the exact calories. They want intense precision and they want to go about it on this like paper protocol. And it's tricky. And, sometimes it's hard to get them there. But my core values is being in tune with the mother, in tune with spirit, and in tune with yourself. And that does not have a clear format on paper. That requires you to tap in enough and be present enough on a consistent basis that you discover what you need in each moment because you're going to have different levels of hunger. I don't want you to sit down and expect yourself to eat this 300-calorie meal when you actually need more that day because you were stressed and you got little sleep and you were so active. Or the next day, I don't want you to gorge on your 700-calorie meal that you designed and said you needed to eat. But in actuality, you had a slower day and you're feeling nourished by life and you're just not as hungry. It's tapping into what you actually need and listening to your body. And we live in such a world where there's just information overload and there's an idea that everything needs to be preconceived and we have to determine it. Especially with AI now, it's like,
Yeah.
give me the answers, tell me what I need to do. You don't need anyone else telling you what you need to do. You have that roadmap in your body. You just have to connect with it. And that's the tools I hope to provide you with, is just the ability to tap in. And I think that is what Rua is doing in this exercise. It's like, how do you tap in?
How do you tap in? How do you tap into that flow? I did it was a movement and sound alchemy retreat at Kripalu in Massachusetts back in early August. And so it's a combination of yoga and different embodiment practices, and then singing. We did some singing. And singing is one of my intentions for this year as well. And so we did this group sing, and my group, the section was listen. I'm not going to sing it because I don't know what the volume is going to, how it's going to interact. But so the lyrics were listen, let your body be the guide, let the waters decide, lose yourself in the meantime.
Mm.
Oh, that's quite deep. Say it again.
Listen, let your body be the guide. Let the waters decide. Lose yourself in the meantime.
That last line, especially.
Let your water decide. It reminds me of you being fluid, because water takes the shape of whatever it goes into, and lose yourself in it. Reduce your boundaries. Just be free. Just be free spirited. Once you get to where you need to be, just take it wholeheartedly, embody it, and be it.
Lose yourself in the meantime too. What that sparks in me is trust. Like, the process is always going on. God is always working in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
So trusting that you can just be free with yourself, as you're saying, Dr. George. You're just like, allow yourself to be on divine timing, allow yourself to trust that everything is happening, so you can go on your side quests. You're ultimately going to end up at the same place. So allow yourself to go on those tangents and have fun and explore, because you don't always need to be so focused on that one roadmap.
And it's
Yeah,
not healthy. It's not healthy.
it's
I'm
not
going to come
healthy.
back to trust at the end with my last invitation for you all. We've got two more. So are we all okay with time?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So one thing I just wanted to share is something called, talking about the fluidity, divine timing. Flow state is another way of looking at that, being in the zone, like really being focused, where everything else fades away, and whatever it is that you need to get done, that's what your attention is on. That's a really creatively fertile place to be. And it's a place where a lot of people only think it's reserved for athletes or artists, but we've all experienced it at one point or another. The thing about tapping into that inspired state of flow, though, is that the neurological level, you need a break from it, right? So if you think about the work structure, the work schedule, a flow cycle that I learned, again, from this group, the Flow Genome Project, that really helps me not burn out with work, especially when I have a really busy season, is understanding that, all right, if you're going to sit down for work, if you have this ability in your schedule, great. If you don't, try to find it to the best of your ability. Everyone sits down, everyone starts their day, and it's a little bit of a struggle, right? You're about to do the thing that you know you need to do. Okay, I got to send these emails. I got to talk to this person I don't really want to talk to, whatever it may be. At the beginning, even if it's like running, those first 5 minutes can be like, whew, whew. And then you get past it and you're like, oh, I can do this. So the first section is the struggle. Understand that that's going to be what and how you experience it. After you get through your struggle, which if you're able to, you should only have the struggle last for like 45 minutes to an hour, if you're able to. Give yourself time to release. Step away from the computer, put the phone down, go outside, do something completely unrelated, if you can, for up to 20 minutes, so that your brain gets a chance to decompress and reset, and then go into an alpha state, which is a more focused state of being. Bring that state of being back into the work, and you can find your way into a flow state. If you eliminate distractions, so don't have the phone nearby, don't have the snacks, don't let people come and distract you. Again, if you can do this. And you'll find that you'll be able to stay in that inspired state of flow for as long as you need to be, as long as you'd want to be. But the trick is, and it's very fulfilling, it's very tantalizing, and we all want to stay in this state because we can be so productive and so
Yeah.
creative in this state. The key is, at a certain point, you have to shut the faucet off, so to speak, and you have to go into recovery. And this is where I hear the lose yourself in the meantime, where it's like, okay, maybe you have a really, really intense schedule coming up and you feel like you can't take a break because you've got to make this deadline. The best thing you can do for enhancing your output of whatever you're working on is to take that break and to take it in an intentional way where you turn the brain off, you turn the noise of the thoughts down by doing a physical practice like yoga, or maybe a more intense workout, having a conversation with someone you love so you're not thinking about work and maybe how to help them, serving, being of service so you're taking your ego out of it and you're just being in a state of compassion and gratitude. And then after that, you can get back into the saddle and repeat the cycle of struggle, release, flow, recovery. But our issue is we either get locked into the struggle, right? Because we just got to keep pushing, or we get into the flow and then we don't know how to stop. And both lead to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
He's just talking about what I've experienced over the past 2 months. I'm telling you this, I'm a researcher and I write books. The other thing I write is proposals. Sometimes you want to put a bid out and you want to write. So technical proposals can be quite technical. In the moment, you designing a program, you know everything it needs and the flow is coming. And you're in there and you're describing it. And you're like, I need this. I need to show this diagram. I need to show this. I need to show this. Then when you look up, you realize I've been here since 8 a.m. and now it's 11 p.m. and I did not eat lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I only used the bathroom one time for the day.
Yeah.
I only drank a small bottle of water. And you realize, and you're like, how did all that time pass? And you don't know when you got there. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Before I started it, I struggled because I'm thinking, oh, I got to start this thing. I got to start this thing. And when you sit down there, you're like, okay, how do I write? What do I write? What do I write? And I may have gone, exercise, go on the treadmill. I might watch a movie or something. And then I came back and then all of a sudden I'm here.
Wow.
And then once I get here, I want to leave because I'm scared that the struggle is going to come back. So I just keep on going and let me just keep writing. So, this is real. I go through it.
And the way to stay on that horse, the way to stay in the flow in a longer term way that's manageable, so you don't do the burnout up and down, the dips, is to really bake in that recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So crucial to take that time, even if it's just a good solid night's sleep. And as hard as it can be, especially when you've been in a creative flow for 12 hours during the day, it's hard to turn the mind off. It's a discipline. It's a discipline because what your brain is actually going through is the different cycles. It's almost like seasons. It needs to go through all these different cycles with the neurotransmitters that are being released, with the different waves and frequencies that you're tapping into to experience itself at a healthy peak level. But again, where we get caught is either in the struggle, I got to keep pushing, which then leads to more cortisol, which puts our brain into that beta, right? So we're just constantly at like fight or flight, or we just get into that flow and we're scared to leave it. One, because it feels so good and we don't want to experience the struggle. We'll do anything to avoid pain, to get more pleasure. But ultimately, in the long term, it can limit our experiences in flow in a healthy way.
So I think looking back at hindsight, it might be best to intentionally set alarms, set breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you can't trust yourself to just know when to stop, then you got to formally make yourself stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I tap into flow pretty easily in a certain way. Like that definitely is more my comfort zone than the struggle. But I will be in flow to the point of being unwell. Like it'll just like keep going. And I suffer with a bit of insomnia. So I have to really set the intention. My laptop has to shut down at a certain time. Like it doesn't matter if the ideas are still there. And I know Rue and I are in the same way where our notes on our phone are crazy. Like we have so many ideas and they're constantly going into our notes. And he wrote a whole book off of his notes. I mean, man is brimming, but it's overwhelming. And I would find myself in creative spaces where it's midnight, it's 2 a.m. I'm waking up, I have an idea, I grab my phone, I'm writing in the notes. And then I feel like crap the next day because it's like I allowed myself to sit in that space. And the intention I set is that I need to hold space to capture the ideas, but any ideas that are meant to be captured are going to come to me when it is time. And so I don't need to always sit in the flow space and be like, oh, I'm in this space. So like bring the ideas, give them. I'm going to collect them all. Instead, it's like, no, if it really was meant to be, it will come next time in that flow space. So it's okay to shut it down. And being a nutritionist, I can't help myself. I have to mention it. Your lunch break. So many people do not take their lunch break. Why? Because they think, oh, if I do this 30 minutes of work right now while I'm eating, or even if I'm not eating, then I can leave earlier and I can go home. But what do you go home to? Majority of my patients are so exhausted because they do this. They go home, they binge watch TV, They have no energy to work out. They have no energy to make dinner. They don't do any of the things that help them take care of themselves and revitalize themselves and give them energy. And it all kind of starts with that lunch break. So it doesn't matter if you're at work 30 minutes extra, because if you take that lunch break, you get away from your desk, you pour love and intention into your food, you make it a moment. Maybe you sit outside, maybe you listen to music, you look at the textures, the colors. It gives you a sense of life, like you're actually living for yourself that day, and it's not just about the work. And all of a sudden, that helps rejuvenate you so you can begin the cycle that Rua talked about, but in a way that is so much more sustainable. So I always encourage my patients, my friends, my peers, like whoever will listen, take that lunch break, get away from your laptop, let it be a moment of pleasure.
As providers, medical providers, it's so easy for us to miss lunch. Or because you see patients, you might use your lunchtime to have a meeting, and you don't eat. So, sometimes you have to be intentional. Sometimes it might mean starting back your afternoon 30 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
If your lunch is 12 to 1 and you're supposed to start your clinic at 1, maybe starting your clinic at 1:30 and giving yourself that extra 30 minutes.
Yeah, but then I guarantee you'll go home and you'll have more energy to do the things that continue to nourish you, as opposed to that 30 minutes just being go, go, go. I know that we have more, Rua. Do you want to jump in with the next one?
Yeah, we'll flow from here. I just wanted to add on a little ribbon to the lunch break and the 30 minutes and like moving your start time back with a client. One thing my business partner does, he's been in sales for the last 10 years in Silicon Valley. And that can be meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting from the moment he gets up to when he goes to bed. And he has 2 young kids under 6 and a loving wife and himself. So there's not much time in the day for really anything. But he's been very intentional about scheduling meetings so that they end not at the top of the hour, but 10 minutes before. So it's like, if possible, if you have that flexibility, intentionally giving yourself 5-10 minute pocket between one thing and the next. And throughout the day, maybe you don't have the luxury of taking a full on lunch break over the day. That can again compound so that maybe you do end up having 30 minutes, an hour of just like woosah time, but you haven't felt like you've gotten off the treadmill. Just like a little easy hack.
You know what? This is similar to some of the mentorship that I received last year, and it is about meetings. A lot of times you would schedule a meeting, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, but who says it has to be 30 minutes or an hour? Sometimes, if you look back at the transcript of a meeting and what was the punchline, what was the to-do items, what was discussed, if you look at that transcript, you might see that meeting could have actually been 15 minutes, or that our meeting could have been a 30-minute meeting. So one of the strategies that my mentor told me is that if you have to schedule a 30-minute meeting, make it 20 or 15 minutes. But you do not schedule another meeting at 20 minutes after. You schedule your next meeting on the half an hour or in the 45 minutes. So you're giving yourself that 15-minute or 10 or 20-minute gap. Never schedule a meeting back to back, but always schedule it less than the time than the person requests.
Mm-hmm.
It forces the person to be on topic.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have 15 minutes or 30 minutes, then you're going to be more pointed on your discussion. So that was something that I've learned, challenged with, taking it in and actually doing it. So this year, I'm going to work on that, right, Miss Tilly? Are you going to help me with that?
Sitting listening, like, that's such great advice.
When you have meeting, when you have limited time, you don't have the frequency to meet. Mm-hmm. So when you meet, your agenda items is so large.
Yeah.
So I think of some of the things we can do is kind of give a preview in an email, kind of give, get prepped and give the preparation in an email. That would help so that in the meeting, the person is not seeing the information for the first time.
That's a good idea.
right? And then you can just dive into it and say, what are your thoughts? So you send the email and say, here are some attachments that we're going to discuss for the meeting. I'm going to get some feedback from you in the meeting. So you get right to it. What are your thoughts? Is there anything we should change? Any ideas, any more ideas?
Mhm.
Okay. And then you move on from it. So I think that might be a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you can relieve yourself of that extra 15 minutes and you have that break.
All right, we'll keep it pushing. The next section is, I just want to say one last thing. I was going to fight on that. Just one thing.
It's so easy to just keep each other.
Just one thing, and then I'll keep the ball rolling, is really easy, but increasingly more difficult solution also to like giving yourself that release, more time, more space to recover and bring yourself into that parasympathetic nervous system is to trade screen time and trade time on the phone, trade time on the computers with time outside. So to the best of your ability, right? If you're able to in the workday, or even just like on your day off. So many of us spend so much time inside. We're here on the East Coast. It's cold. It makes sense. You want to cozy up and watch 8 hours of Netflix and whatever. But do yourself the service of maybe trading 1 hour of that 8 hour binge to just go take a walk outside, to just open the door and get some fresh air, even if it's that small. Very, very small, very simple. I know it's getting harder and harder because these things are becoming like appendages, but it's crucial to be intentional with that, just for someone's mental and emotional well-being. Which, again, leads me to the next section. Beautiful segue there, Rue. How'd you do that? It's almost like you planned it. It's all impromptu. Is okay. We have identified the story, creating the character. In every story, a character isn't, well, unless it's Castaway, where it was Tom Hanks with the volleyball. In every story, the main character, has other characters that they're relating to. Has other people that we're engaging with. Just like in life, we're not doing this alone. We have romantic partners, we have business partners, we have friends, we have family, we have children, we have elders that we're caring for, we have our community. We're always in relationship. And so, how do you take that story? How do you take that awareness of yourself in these different situations and place that in how you approach relationship? How do you explore more balanced dynamics in your relationship in 2025? We started talking about boundaries, and I think that was before we started recording or after, I don't really remember, but that's a really good way to be intentional about how someone chooses to relate to another. That's just one example. I'd love to hear any more you guys may have.
I often use this example with my patients. Sometimes I have patients who are great at what they do at their job, and everybody look to them to do a specific task. So, for example, if you are great with PowerPoints and reports, everyone wants you to do those PowerPoint presentation and those report graphs and figures and all. So sometimes you might have someone who they always ask you to do something and you say yes, yes, yes. You go in a staff room, a break room, they saw you in the hallway and they asked you to do this presentation for this meeting tomorrow. You say, sure, I can do it. But only to find out when you go back to your desk or your office, you realize you have so many things on the agenda, but you already give your word. So what that does for you, you end up working all through the night after hours to do that task. And it becomes a physical and emotional burden because you don't want to let down the person and you don't want to go against your word. So I've told my patients these strategies that they can do. Never agree to something in passing. I tell them always ask the person to send you an email and then you're going to respond to the email from there. The reason why you tell them to send you an email so that when you get to read that email, you can check your schedule and you can say, yes, I could do it, or no, I cannot do it. So responding on the whim is dangerous, especially when you're putting yourself to complete a task. Give yourself that time to think it through and check your schedule, make sure that all your other obligations are met before you say yes. And I can tell you over the years that has helped so many of my patients. They came back and they told me that they stopped doing that and they realized that they can go home and they don't have to work overtime. They don't have to be staying up late at night and robbing their family from the time that they have to share with their children or their loved one. But now they can really understand the importance of setting boundaries to ensure that you have balance, work-life balance. What are some of the things, Miss Tilly, that you see that in your experience that have helped in this situation?
For the work-life balance, or just like generally relating?
Like, what he said about being intentional. And, how do you be intentional about the things you do when you're in that setting with that person or that colleague? I would say, what is your experience in terms of this?
In terms of relating. So I think I was very humbled into my answer, as so many of us are. I am more introverted, but I have extroverted abilities. So I can be very friendly, very chatty, and I very much like to connect with people and make them feel seen. For a while, my main goal was I don't care who the person is, we are going to find a way to relate to each other. So I would go into it with that intention, but that's work. It's like I'm digging to find something in some sort of way to connect with this person. And I think that that's sometimes forceful, like you're forcing a connection. So something I used to think is a strength and an ability and a talent would just continue to drain me. I find as I'm kind of being intentional now with the relationships I create and thinking about energy, both in a work environment and in a personal environment, is letting my nervous system guide me. Like that is my best advice to give to anyone. I give it often is just tap into your nervous system. Because oftentimes we might meet someone, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's a new individual just at a party, whatever it may be. And on paper, you're like, oh, this person seems like they'd fit with me. It seems like they're so inspiring. They're doing all these cool things. Or, it seems like we'd work together well. And everything that they're saying is like, I connect with. Yet physically, emotionally, there's something a little off. I'm not feeling it quite right in my body. And so that's where I've been really grounding myself is like, do I feel relaxed? Do I feel at ease? Do I feel like I'm spending more time laughing and inspired? Or am I just getting too intellectual and finding those connecting points and relating and seeing the inner workings? So I'm trying to step away from the mental and just really tap into the heart. And like if it feels natural and not just forcing it, both with work and personal, like sometimes with patients, like there are times where I want so badly to connect and to help a patient. Like I really have the intention that any patient who walks in, like I want you to walk away feeling seen, heard, and helped. However, there are just going to be patients where I'm not meant for them. I'm not their cup of tea. I'm not the person that is going to tap in and pull it out of them. And so it's accepting that on my end. Because if I just keep pushing, 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 I'm going to make them want to run away. So it's also finding that connecting point of realizing like we should be meeting at some point. You don't always want to be trying to pull someone in. It's more about attracting through being rather than like grabbing and reaching.
And two really great examples of one, trusting the nervous system, trusting the body, and again, going back to that theme of trust, allowing that to guide you instead of what you think you need to do or what I think I need to do or should be doing. And then also the more kind of practical example that you gave, Dr. George, of don't accept new work responsibilities on a whim or in passing.
So helpful.
I'd never heard
So helpful.
take the time. Okay, I hear you, right? I'm receiving the message. Send me an email, right? So you're understanding the culture, you're understanding the story of the place you're in, right? It's not being disrespectful. You're not denying them or rejecting them. Just send me an email. I'll get back to you when I can. And then giving yourself that time once again to connect to your body, connect to your nervous system, connect to your schedule and your to-do list and see, do I actually have the bandwidth to do this? And is this something that I actually feel like I need to be doing versus this is something that I need to do I must do this. I should do this, even if I don't have the bandwidth for it. Why? Because maybe I'm operating in a story as a character where that's the role that I've assumed, is the person that takes on everything that everyone gives me. And maybe there's a sense of pride there, right? There's a sense of like, oh, I can do this. I'm kind of the hero. Or this is what I've always done. I've always taken responsibility for everyone in my family, and it just carries on until adulthood. So what we're really talking about is constantly reshaping the narrative, reinterpreting the perspective, like shifting the lens on the camera to see it from a different angle. And it's again, it's these techniques are so simple, but kind of to your point, Dr. George, about the culture we're in, where it's go, 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 versus the example you gave about dancing on the beach in Trini, just taking a moment to give ourselves that time to say, do I actually want to do this? It can almost feel sacrilege. It can feel like, oh my gosh, if I do this, one, I'm not honoring who I think I am, right? I'm not showing up in the story that I've created for myself. And two, even worse, I may be letting someone else down. So then the guilt just gets doubled and it gets compounded. And so just taking those moments, oh my gosh, it's so simple. Just take a moment are just so necessary. This breath, this vital life force is flowing in and out of our bodies nonstop. I believe we have, what was it? I don't know, was it 60 to 80,000 breaths a day? How many of those do we think about? It's, it's only when we're short of breath that we think about it. Right? But this breath is not asking for anything in return, and yet it's giving us everything, right? How can we be that way in life with ourselves, for ourselves? Which leads me to the last question, the last invitation. We've identified the story, creating the character, exploring balance in our relationship dynamics. You've got all these moving pieces. Now, how do you want to share that story? How do you want to show up in the world and allow that to flow through you? We are using the example of work and personal, and you both have given some really great examples and intentions that you'd like to set for this year of how you're doing that. But this can take the form of, like Tilly, as you were saying, maybe this can take the form of doing more creative projects, right? It could be as simple as that, or bringing more creativity into your work. Dr. George, this could be as simple as doing those dance classes or waking up in the morning or before bed and dancing to just one song, or incorporating more impromptu experiences into your professional and personal life. There's so many different ways we can share who we are, what we are, how we are with the world. We can share that story. And it's just on us to get really, really clear on, okay, how do I want to do that? For me, this year, it was writing and publishing this book. This was my way of sharing the story, the stories, all the collection of experiences I've had over the last 10, 12 years into one single resource that I can share with people that maybe lead to more conversations like this, that maybe lead to work opportunities, that maybe lead to unexpected great relationships and connections, adventures, right? I got really clear on that, and I did it. That was just the framework that I chose. But I'm curious to know for you two, what do you think that would be for you?
I'll let you go first, Miss Tilly.
I know mine actually. And I think that's become evidently clear in the last like 48 hours, actually. I feel in a really good place with my patients. I want to continue growing that, continue growing this practice together, Dr. George, because this has been so much more rewarding than I ever could have imagined, working with such a diverse demographic and connecting with so many people and showcasing them, my background, which isn't the traditional background of most dietitians and even nutritionists. So it's being able to show people a different way in a form of love and care that they probably wouldn't be getting at most primary care offices. And that feels really, really good. So that to me is like a safe zone now. Like I feel good in this space. I want to continue with it. But when I want to connect all elements of myself, not just my work personality, but my personal, my sense of community, because that is a thing. Like I want to build some community. That hasn't been something I felt like I've really ever had outside of my immediate family. So that is certainly a goal. And I I want to say it's through something Rue and I are doing, which is these immersive tasting experiences. We just hosted one this past Saturday where I cooked a 4-course meal, and we did mindful eating practices, and Rua did like mindful meditations and ways to give prompts, and kind of what we're doing now of just stimulating conversation, stimulating introspection. And we had 16 people sitting at one communal table, all different people, all different ages, backgrounds, and conversing and connecting. And to me, this was so magical because my love language is food. Like, anyone who's come to my home, like, I'm feeding you. I have to feed you. I want to feed you. I love sharing my love for food, for what the earth provides us, and just taking the hand in it. You know, I made pasta from scratch. I did so many hours of just like, you know, rolling out the dough and hand cutting the noodles, and like everything was just so intentional. And it's a lot of work. And I do like working. I do like that hard effort for a labor of love. And then being able to share my food with people, and not just it be about eating, but it be about Tantra. And Tantra is mindful pleasure. So it's taking a moment to really bask in the presence. Pleasure is just the combination of being present and being grateful. And that's really what I want to evoke in people, is how to inspire more pleasure, more presence, and more gratitude. And so it kind of hits all my birds with one stone, not just two. It hits all of them, to be able to work with my fiance, work with someone who inspires me and who continues to teach me so much, and bring together different people, bring together communities to teach them to love themselves, love the food, feel like they're just having a night full of just like so many gifts. You know, they're gaining so much. And yet it's not teaching, it's not lecturing, it's simply actually just being. And then I get to walk away and see how people were uplifted. And also, I get to make new friends. So that is something I am definitely putting the intention of, like, I want to share more of myself with others through doing more of these tasting experiences.
So that's amazing because we have similar parallels based on what my goals are. I want to continue to share myself with my patients. I really love that integrative approach where when I meet a patient for the first time, I really take the time to get to know them. And I tell them, I said, this first visit, I need to know who you are. I need to know everything as much as possible about you so that once we start addressing medical concerns, I can really do it in a holistic way. Understanding your culture, understanding your beliefs, understanding the type of work you do, understanding your family structure. All of that needs to happen. So when there's a medical concern or where there's a need for support, you know their support system. So a lot of times patients will tell me, no provider never talked to me this way. I had a patient today and she said to me, she said, you know why I met you the first time and you know why I kept coming? Because I would never forget. I moved from Texas and you were the first provider I saw. And you asked me, how is my sleep? You asked me, how is your nutrition? How much meals you eat a day? You asked me about my family. You asked me about so many things that no provider never asked me, and you really wanted to know who I was. She said it was not like a 15-minute visit. You're just in and you just push me out the door. So that's what I'm doing intentionally. Every person is God's creation. And I always say we are beautiful because we were created in God's image. And everybody's unique. And we need to not put everybody as a one size fits all. Take the time to know each person, each individual, each patient. And when you identify what their medical needs or mental health needs may be, you need to collaborate with them to come up with a solution together. It's never a top-down approach. It's not a bottom-up approach. It's a collaboration.
Love that.
And when you reach that collaboration approach, you understand that you have more compliance, you have more investment or motivation into making the change that you want to make in order to be healthy, in order to be the best version of yourself, right? So I want to be able to be intentional to continue to do that and to understand to continue to bring in my other team members because we are integrated clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we understand that, yes, we talk about weight. We talk about, yes, I'm obese and I want to lose weight, and you go to the nutritionist. But Miss Tilly can tell you everything you need to do with a meal to be healthy. But if mentally you're depressed, you're not motivated to even get up and cook in the kitchen, to even get up and go to the grocery store and buy the healthier foods instead of ordering Chinese over the phone or ordering pizza over the phone, then what Miss Tilly may have done is in vain. Mm-hmm. So we want you to win. So in order for my patients to win, I know that in addition to having them meet with Miss Tilly, the nutritionist, I need to have behavioral health on board because I need you to be coached along the way. I need some cognitive behavioral therapy to manage that depression. I need you to change negative self-talk into positive self-talk, or I may need you to reduce that anxiety. Learn how to set boundaries, learn how to set priorities, learn how to communicate your truth, right? And that is a big piece. Sometimes people know that they don't want to do something, but they still do it because they don't want to let down someone else. They don't want to disappoint someone else. But in the meantime, they are hurting. They are suffering. It's time for 2025. You say no more. So if you keep taking advantage of me, if you keep using me, because some people are just takers. They are not givers. So I say to the audience who's listening, be aware. Identify the people in your life who are takers. And if they are takers, you need to teach them that they need to be givers, right? Don't let people keep taking from you. It's like the caregiver. The caregiver needs to be cared for.
Mm-hmm.
Who's giving back to them? Who's giving back to them? Some of my patients have family members overseas, and they may be the only one who's in America or who's working. Every time they want to pick up the phone and call and say, I need money, I need you to Western Union, I need you to MoneyGram this. But they need to understand that they can't just be selfish. If you take and take and take, then that person not going to have for themselves. There has to be a balance. And, sometimes I have patients that struggling mentally and they're so stressed with all these obligations that is coming from overseas, from family members wanting this, and they can't tell them no. But in the end, the question I ask them, have any one of your family member ever give you something recently? And the answer is no. So sometimes even in our life home here, we need to understand that when there's giving, there should be taking. It should be a mutual understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people say, you must have skin in the game, right? It's like your business partner. You have a business partner, you starting a business. Each of you all have to have skin in the game for the business to be successful. It will not be successful if one person is doing it all and the other person have nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're not going to get that commitment. You're not going to get that success. So I say in life, when you pick your friends, be aware if they are a taker or if they are a giver or if they are both. The best friendship is when they are taking and giving also. So I would say for 2025, I want to teach and help my patients that they will be able to have takers and givers in their life. If you have one who's just a taker and not a giver, sometimes you got to cut them off for your own sanity, mental sanity.
One way that can be illustrated for them is, again, through the breath. You breathe in, you have to breathe out. You're taking air in, and then you're giving it back out. And if at any point that cycle stops, you're probably not going to be here for much longer.
I like that analogy, Rue. Take it in, out. And if you can't take it in, that's it.
Yeah.
Capiche.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. I really enjoy this program today. It was very calming, relaxing, very intentional. very instructional.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have tools that we can use throughout the year to really help us to be intentional. So, Ru, I'm going to ask you, what are the top 3 things, takeaway messages from today's program that you will say that is essential for our viewers to remember and to be intentional in their use?
First one is you always have the ability to reframe your perspective and to begin a new story, to start a new narrative, making decisions based on how it feels in your body and your nervous system. Does it calm you or does it agitate you? And why? Don't accept tasks on a whim.
You like that one?
Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah, it is good. When people, could you just quickly, Rua, for people who want to now end this episode and kind of practice them themselves, just go through the 4 prompts, just say it real quick, because I think it's important for people to take it, write it down. Rua and I did this for New Year's. Write it down, keep looking at it throughout the year, keep it accessible, return to that place anytime life gets a little bit dicey, you're feeling like you're not connected to yourself, you're feeling lost, return to your story, return to your character, because that will serve you so much. So just quickly, what are the 4 prompts again?
4 prompts are, the first one is identifying your story. The who, the what, the where, the why, the when, the how, putting all the ingredients together. What's the meal you want to make out of your life this year? Identifying your story. The next one is creating your character. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? How do you want to feel? How do you want to be remembered? We spoke about legacy. How do you want to impact those around you? What are the ripples you want to create? Creating your character. The third one is exploring balance in relationship dynamics. We are not living alone. So how do you want to relate to the people that you're in relationship with, personally and professionally? Getting really clear about that and committing to that, honoring that for yourself because you deserve it. And then the last one is, how do you wish to share your story? There's so many different ways you can take this story of your creation and this character of your design and share it with the world. How do you want to share it? It could be as simple as how you show up in conversation with an open mind instead of what may have been a fixed mindset before. It could be as something as extreme as writing a book or writing a movie or creating more art or whatever it may be, opening a clinic, whatever it may be. How do you wish to share your story with the world?
Mm-hmm.
Is the last one.
Wow, that is so beautiful. Yeah, it's amazing. I learned something significant today through this
So did
program,
I.
and I embody it. I really do. It resonates with me in a place of authenticity, in a place of realness, in a place of peace.
Yeah, when Rua took me through this, I was like, I have to share it. Like, I have to bring him on the podcast because it's just, it seems so simple, yet it's so profound. So I encourage people to check out the rest of the book if you want to go out even deeper. We'd love to hear from you, Rua, as far as like, how can people find you if they want to learn more and connect more with this type of practice? It can be hard to find practitioners who this is their one lane, and it's such a profound lane, and it's more needed. So definitely encouraging people to seek out these types of practices.
Yeah, people can find me on Instagram at Pyra Community. Pyra is spelled Pyra, at Pyra Community. It's Greek for born of flame, born of fire. And you can also purchase the book at pyra.live. The book will have all the different sections that we just went over in today's episode laid out for you, along with 132 inspiring muses that you can read, you can flip open to, and exercises that go along with them to help you implement some of these philosophies into your day-to-day life.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And this was such a good episode.
It really was. I can't wait for the feedback from our viewers. I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear their perspective and to hear what else they want to learn or what else they want.
Absolutely. So I know we're kind of already into the new year, but to our listeners, Happy New Year. This is your journey. This is your marathon, not a sprint. So just live with intention. Let your resolutions be guided by enjoyment, by pleasure, by gaining, by compassion. We don't need to force ourselves into certain goals. So let this be a guide for you to just invoke in a more beautiful life, because as I always say, we want to thrive, not just survive. Thank you so much for joining us this session, and we will see you again soon.
Bye and Happy New Year, and we will see you soon. And remember, be the best version of you.
Come on, work it out. What? Come on, work it out. Come on and work it out. See, health is wealth. Come on and work it out. You at the gym right now. Come on and work it out. See, health is wealth. Come on and work it out. Yeah. Come on. It's about you and me. Let's come together, positivity. It's about me. Health is wealth. Gotta take care of myself. Cause ain't nobody gonna make the change but me. So let me put in the work and be the best version of me.